Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast, where we do everything of how you can manage your mind. And today, I am actually a little bit excited about this conversation. We'll give you the headline right now: Battling Loneliness as an Entrepreneur. Love that. That's where we're going. And the power of identity. I am a big believer in people do not understand the power identity plays in the role of who we are and how it can genuinely play with our mind. I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, Mr. The Beast himself. Say hi.
Cuddy, thank you so much for that intro. And it was interesting because we were just having a bit of a chat beforehand, and it was like, is it Luke Beastall? I was like, yes, you got it. And you're like, beast mode. I do tend to live life in beast mode, I say.
Now, the question I've got for you before we go into everything we're going to talk about, but do you live in beast mode? Genuinely, because there's always this image in social media of, oh, I'm living life to the max, I'm doing this, and I'm like, it's not possible. Don't listen to that bullshit. So I'm going to ask you the question, Luke, the Beast all, do you live in beast mode all the time?
Well, I wouldn't say all the time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But if you talk about going after it, sort of challenging myself, being this person that I truly want to be with the time that we've got on this planet Earth,
Yeah.
I'd definitely say I'm living up to the Beastall name, if you want to say
Fantastic.
that.
I love it. Absolutely fantastic. So, Luke, I do 5 minutes chat with everyone before the podcast start. We don't know each other. I think that's the power of the podcast, the
Sure.
networking aspect. We do a quick 5 minute chat. So, look, share with the world of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. What is it that Luke does? Who are you? Where are you? And what are you doing?
So, really appreciate it. And actually, I do love the fact that you're sort of just having a like nice intro, bringing the connection together because we'll obviously talk about this later in. But yeah, so look, I'm based in, well, near Chesterfield, a small village called Pilsley, UK. Born and bred, UK. Done plenty of traveling and stuff like that. But look, where my life's taken me, I'd say ex-professional football athlete, which I'm sure we'll tap into later. That's been a big part of my life up to 22. Transitioned into becoming a personal trainer, started my own business. Actually, it's going to be a 10-year anniversary this year, so I'm quite proud of that as well. Fitness and well-being's always been a big part of my life, and recently gone into business coaching, so sort of help people that are employed transition to self-employment. So I tend to work with a lot of people on that sort of structural discipline where they're sort of stuck on how to manage time, energy, and stuff as they're trying to juggle multiple hats. Obviously, I'm a dad myself, so it's trying to be a dad, partner, business owner, 9 to 5 person. So yeah, just helping with that really. And yeah, I got my own podcast as well, Cuddy. So you know that. So I work with people. So talking about identity, the biggest thing for me, and the reason why I called my podcast Beyond the Boardroom or Beyond the Workplace, it's like, well, who are you outside of your workplace? Tell me about that. Because a lot of our identity when running a business or, I don't know, maybe progressing up a career ladder, it's very easy to get sucked in and trapped into the work, and your identity is just work alone. You've got nothing, you're kind of empty outside of that work. So for me, that was my own self discovery, and that's what I guess. I mean, do you know what? I say this all the time, and I kind of hear this from a lot of others as well. Is we sort of want to become the person that we needed the most when we were sort of in our bad place and sort of in our low place. So obviously, I suffered from depression, and now I want to be able to give back to others what I was missing at that important part of my life. So, yeah, is that
That's
sort of
that's where we're going to go to. So the mind management mentors is we focus on the journey of where you are to where you are now and how you got through it, so that everyone's watching is like, look, everyone's going. And we talked about this before we started. About I'm going to really rattle on about emotional health. Stress, anxiety, and depression is emotional health. It's labeled as mental health. I don't think it should be. That's just what I'm going to put out into the world. I think it should be now classed as emotional health. Let's work on our emotions, emotional understanding, our emotional intelligence, our positive emotional intelligence, and of how we can understand that depression is going to come. Depression is something that we can have and a state we can go into and move out of. But the education for understanding that, I don't believe is out there. To be fair, especially for young teenagers coming up, and that's where we're going to go to with you.
Yep.
Because the reason we wanted to talk about identity, when it comes to explain what identity is for anyone watching, and Luke, I know you'll be all over this, is we're looking at the behaviors of we are, the labels of who we are, the power of the labeling that we have for ourselves, and then the power of core values. Understanding our core values and acting to those core values genuinely changes who we are as human beings, and being aligned to those values genuinely what you can do in 5 minutes is someone to go, are you aligned to that? Oh, no, I haven't. That's probably why you have anxiety, stress, or depression. If you're not living to who you are,
Mm.
our emotions show up by going, this is why. That's how the subconscious shows up. It's a misalignment within our values, within our identity. We're not acting to our core values. So our subconscious goes, let's give you a dodgy emotional state to let you know that you are not aligned. So let's go back to younger
Yes. Yep.
professional football. We had a joke about how professional Rotherham
Oh
Football
no,
Club
I
is.
know.
Only a joke because I'm from Sheffield originally. That was only a joke. Talk me
Yes.
through
No.
that.
No. Yeah. So, do you know what was kind of There was a word screaming out to me when you was talking about all of that stuff there, which I thought was really good. It's just purpose.
Alignment. Yes.
Yeah. So I lost that. So if we talk about football, right? When you talk about labeling, I was pro footballer in
Yep.
everybody's minds. That was my label. That's all ever. It was pressure, right? So even when I was in school and stuff like that, I'd take a day out of school. So I'd sacrifice a bit. I'd catch up on my education, but I took a day out to be with the football team to get into the environment. They were nurturing me into sort of coming away from teenager to more of a boy to a man. So I getting exposed to that. So there was pressure there because people were like, oh, he's missing school because he's a pro footballer. I would eventually pull myself out of sort of the school football team because, again, as people talk, you'd go on the football pitch. Yeah, he plays for a pro football club. So all they wanted to do was break my legs.
So you can't
You
get
know,
injured. Yep.
yeah. So there was sort of like, there was that kind of going on. So there was, again, a lot of pressure there.
Jealousy.
Yeah, sort of the same thing outside of school environment. Obviously, when you sort of get into, there's a lot of, like, there was house parties, and my dad would be picking me up at 9:30, 10 o'clock, rather than staying over. Like, people would say, "Oh, come on, stay over. You're all right." I had a game in the morning, so there's a lot of sacrifice with that. People knew, oh, he won't drink, so there's a bit of social pressure around, even that age. Oh, he won't drink. He's pretty boring. He's a footballer, and I mean, I was so focused. I was sort of like, yeah, okay, say what you want, but of course, it's still affected us a little bit. I thought, like, in a way I was missing out because I was doing the football side. But look, I mean, I'm saying all of this because it's probably the stuff that people don't really talk about a
Yeah.
lot. You sort of just you're this so-called glorified, glamified on the social media these days, and sort of seen as the next best thing, right? And I was sort of the local guy from a town, superstar, gonna be, oh, Luke, remember me when you're pro, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it carried through with me. But yeah, the football life was, I mean, look, I don't take anything away from it. I think the biggest thing that I will always say is that I'm very, very grateful for, and it's definitely a privilege, is I wouldn't have been able to go where I wanted to go
Yeah.
and be where I wanted to be without my family support and troops me all over the country, even overseas and stuff like that.
Yeah. So again, bang on, perfect. Love this conversation because now we've got to we're going to go along the tree branches for everything that you've just said, so that anyone watching this is like, right, now I understand it, because that's what mind management is understanding. You've now created a belief system. How old were you? So are we talking 15, 16 when you got pulled out of school a little bit? What was the age?
Yeah. Yeah. 15, 16. Yeah.
So we're talking 15, 16. Now we get this belief system. Now we're looking at validation. Now, as a 15-year-old lad, Chesterfield, going to Rotherham, getting these opportunities that I'm sure parents are going, oh my God, you're going to be this, you're going to be this. Your true friends, oh, remember us when you're pro, but jealousy pops up. Now, for a 15-year-old, Luke the Beastall, he's going through this. Very humble guys. We're talking, we're teenagers going through. And you think about this when there's all the 17-year-olds playing football for England. Oh my God, the pressure that you must be under.
Yeah.
I'm not equating Rotherham to England, but you look at the age of the team. Luke's going, yes, thanks, Cuddy. But
Yeah.
no. So now we're creating a belief system, which is part of identity, and it's part of, don't ever underestimate the power of biology. When you are going for everything that you're going through, and then at what age did you realize professional football wasn't going to happen?
So I actually started, the doubt started creeping in when I actually signed my youth scholarship program at 16. So when I signed for Rotherham, it sort of was a little bit like everything was going so well. So well. I sort of kept going a year up. I was a captain, bit of a leader, talker on the pitch, loudmouth on the pitch, and I was like, "Oh my days, this couldn't be better." I moved away from home, so I actually lived just outside of Rotherham, Dinnington, which I bet I don't know if you've heard of
I
that
do know
place.
Diddington, yes.
Yeah. So I lived there with a family, so it was sort of like again growing up, and yeah, 3 months in, I actually quit. I decided to quit the program, and the reason being, and this goes again to one of my core values, which was communication. And I was always taught as a kid, if I ever had a question or if I was not sure of something, always ask.
Yeah.
Right? That was always something. So I started asking questions about certain things with the football or the training or the drill that we was doing. And the lads in the club, the managers, there was two guys, quite old school mindset, bottled the emotion, didn't really say much, weren't sort of like empathetic in a way, should I say. I was sort of a sensitive guy. I was always a likable character, always spoke what I thought and was always honest and whatever, trying to give your audience context. Is I started asking questions and the lads started saying, Luke, are you thick or what?
Label.
Right? So then, obviously for me, I just brushed it off as you do. So, okay, whoa, okay, chill out, mate. I'm only asking a question. Then it becomes sort of like a bit more.
Yeah.
And then it started getting around to all. So then I started feeling a little bit isolated, a
Yeah.
bit cornered. Then it sort of, then that went into the changing rooms. So after training, it sort of like they kept bringing it up. And then they started calling me names. It got a bit more. And I was like thinking, and I've never, honestly, in my entire life, I don't think I'd ever been exposed to, I mean, I'd probably say now you could classify it as a past the banter stage and a bit more bullying
I was going to
verbally.
ask you, where's the level of because I like banter. I genuinely
Yes.
like
Oh,
banter. And
same,
where's the line
same.
between banter and bullying? Yeah.
Yeah. I think when somebody, I'll be honest, when they called me a fat bastard and stuff
Right.
like that, which it kind of can be banter in football, but when they say it more and more, and then they started saying stuff about my mum and my dad, just bringing those into conversation, that's when I raged. That's when I sort of like outburst, and then it got to the point where this is banter, by the way. Is shower gel in trainers, putting DP in your boxer shorts so your balls are on fire. We did it. I did it to others. They did it to me. It were a great laugh. You have to, it's sort of initiation in a way. Like coming into that sort, and plus, you're doing football, but you're doing jobs as well. So you're like cleaning boots, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So it was like boredom, right? Oh, I'm a bit bored. I'll just do that. But when they started like putting stuff in my food, so it was actually ruining, like, it was in pre-season and they were putting like instant coffee granules in my food, so I couldn't eat I'm not going to eat my pasta or something like that. That's when it got to me, and that's when I went forward to the management and said, "Look, I'm all for banter, I'm all for this, but I'm not for someone ruining my meal that then I can't eat, and now I'm starving,
Mm.
and I'm on like I don't want to be spending money on food when we don't really get paid like a ton of money at this stage."
Plus, it's Rotherham United, so yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, literally. So
Banter,
I
not
know, I know.
bullying.
Yeah. There you go. And then literally, I was sort of, I guess in a way, I was sort of expecting the manager to take it and kind of have a chat with the boys because he mentioned to me like, oh, who was it who was sort of, initiating it. So I said who it was. They did nothing about it. So I was sort of like, okay, let it roll. And the guy I was living with at the time, because I was in digs with another guy, he was like so sound with me when we was at home. But then when we were sort of at the training ground, he was a different man. He was a different guy. He was sort of like joining in with him and like I felt a bit cornered. This is where I felt isolated. This is when loneliness crept in. And so early on, like again, it was a little bit of like, oh my days, I've got 2 years of this. And I'm 3 months in and I really fit and then it affected my performance, it affected my confidence, my anxiety started to raise a little bit.
Mm.
And I was crying. I'll never forget calling my dad up on the phone, and the anger sort of like built up so much that I just like broke down on tears on the phone. I said, Dad, I've never ever wanted to say this. I never thought I'd say this, but because I felt like I was letting my parents down at this stage, because I was like, they took me everywhere, and I got this contract, and it was supposed to be great. I'd enjoyed it all on the run up. It's as though as soon as I signed that pen to paper and was like, I mean, it all just started like going south, and I was crying. I said, Dad, I don't want to be here. I hate living away. All I want to be is at home. I didn't think this would be like this. The management don't care. They're never saying anything. I keep going out to them, and they didn't. They just thought I was being weak. Like the managers thought I was weak, when in fact, probably, yeah, you could say that I was sort of like, but I want. It was like I was sort of wanting something from them, and there wasn't doing anything. There was just like, man up, Luke, crack on with it, sort of thing. So yeah, I left Rotherham. 3 months in, I quit. And the lads all sort of like, oh my God, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving? But I'm so proud of myself for having that courage to not continue being in that place and just kind of cut it short. And that's when then I left Rotherham and I went on to Derby County. I had a trial there that didn't work out, and then I went up north to Manchester and went up to Bury Football Club, and then I signed there for 2 years. So football ended for me when I was 19 in the pro world, and then I sort of went out into the semi-pro world from 19 to 22. So I sort of given myself that time,
Yeah.
and I went part of I mean, just to understand, I've tried a lot of different things. Like I signed at a college that was a full-time football program. We
Yeah.
played against like Peterborough and all that alongside education. So I wanted a bit of education, like sports science. And then I went to Madrid. So I was a part-time bilingual English assistant teacher, so helping Spanish kids with English. So I was getting a bit of a part-time and playing part-time sort of Spanish football in the leagues out there. So I was living in Madrid. So I
Nice.
did that for 6 months. Then I went to Scotland and did all that. I've been out to Germany on trial.
Whereabouts in Scotland? Obviously, you cued my interest there. Whereabouts in Scotland did you go?
I was in Glasgow, but I'd been on trial at Partick Thistle and Motherwell.
Yeah, fantastic. Nice.
Yeah, got rejected. So I think this is where then I'd never again in my life, at this, or up to the age of, I guess, 16, 17, there was multiple rejections happening.
Right. So, bang on. Perfect. Loving it so far. How does, because there is the outcome of this is you are a successful entrepreneur now. Now, at the age of 21, you've gone through this rejection, rejection, rejection. Let's say there was when we're talking trauma, there's big T's and little T's. The little T of the traumatic experience of Doncaster, not sorry, Rotherham.
Yep.
How was your internal conversation from going back to your mum and dad to going through all these different football clubs? What was the internal conversation like?
Well, it was sort of I would say a lot. Like, I would doubt myself a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Initially, like obviously I'd been hurt, sort of been
yeah,
damaged a little bit from the rejection.
absolutely.
I was sort of saying to myself, "Oh, I don't know whether I can do this anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not enjoying it." But then there was another voice inside of me going, "Do you know what though, Luke? Look at what you've achieved. Look at where you've been. You've got this." And I was just going on loads of trials, so I was so used to going into changing rooms where everybody was silent because nobody knew each other. Internationals there, and I started like being that leader again. So I turned it on its head and started being like, lads, listen, let's have a bit of a conversation. Let's talk a little bit. Like, what we're nervous for? Why are we just listening to music? And I mean, that time, no, I mean, nowadays, I bet everyone's just like glued to the phone as you get into a changing room. But back then, it wasn't sort of such a big thing. Everyone would just sort of listen to headphones or iPods or whatever and just be listening to music. But I'd be like, no, let's chat. Like, what do you do? What position do you play? And I said, look, if we're going to go out and play this team, we need to just get to know each other a little bit, even though we've never played together. So again, it's sort of like I brought that togetherness again, even
yeah,
though I'd felt lonely, and I guess I felt sort of backed into a corner. And I did. I started to think maybe I'm not this great footballer that I thought I was. But
yeah,
then when I'd go out on the pitch, it's sort of like you leave, you park all that anyway. You
yeah,
sort of you feel free, you step over that white line. But the internal conversation for me, it was like, look, Luke, you may never get this. I was very much in the present sort of. I may
yeah,
never get this opportunity again. Live it, enjoy it. What's the worst that can happen? And yeah, I guess for me, there was a time again when I got to 22, and it was actually Scotland. And when I went up to Glasgow, I did 3 weeks up there. So I sort of like I made that sort of my pinnacle, last ditch saloon
yeah,
of hitting the football scene all in.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, I guess that was May 2015.
yeah,
And then I sort of like, yeah, I made the decision to retire and hang my boots up because I fell out of love with football.
yeah.
Then it was sort of like, what next?
So perfect. So what were you now looking back with all those rejection? What were you actually building?
I think for me, it was. I mean, I was obviously building my character myself. I guess, that was the one thing that I started to, but I didn't realize that at the time, though.
Yeah, at the
So,
time we don't
yeah,
realize, but when we look
yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah. I mean, even with the emotion, like as I said to you about the
yeah,
depression, as I said about the loneliness, it wasn't an emotion that I understood
yeah,
at that time.
yeah,
It's like I was sort of really struggling to come to terms with what I was feeling.
yeah,
But again, there was somebody at the club that I had space to talk to about it, and it was just a sports therapist,
yeah,
sports psychologist therapist, and that was. But again, it was sort of just listening, not actually coaching or guiding me out of it. It was just sort of like, I'll listen to you. But anyway, yeah. So I was building that, and then I guess for me, I'd worked a bit with my dad. I'd sort of done some part-time jobs alongside trying to fund for fuel to go to these trials. So I didn't have much money. My mum and dad, my dad's got his own business and stuff, and they would always support me, but they'd always make me sort of humble and grounded. Like they
yeah,
made me understand, you've got to kind of work to earn a bit of money or, to go to these trials. So I used to work with my dad whilst I used to go to this like performance center in Manchester and be around all these athletes. So I still wanted to be amongst high performers to try and keep
yeah,
my mind in a good place.
yeah,
But I also realized at that age as well that I didn't want to work for anybody. I kind of classified myself as like I'm unemployable because I found myself and I said that at such a young age. I said to my dad, I'm unemployable. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, because I find myself going into these places and I'm having conversations with people and I feel like the odd one out. I don't know. I had that such of a drive. I mean, I did everything behind the scenes. I used to get up early in the morning and do extra work. I used to be in the gym 7 days a week. I'd always had that sort of beast mode mentality, if you want to call it. I was
yeah.
sort of always wanting to learn, develop my craft and my skill set. So, yeah, that's when, again, but this time I didn't know what I wanted to do. I could have gone into football coaching, could have built my own coaching practice in football. But my mum and dad was sort of the one that I guess said, Luke, probably you need to be somewhere where it's a reset or, and they started traveling on cruise ships. So
I used to work on a,
you did, yeah. All right. Well, funnily
I was a
enough, this
cruise
was
director at Royal Caribbean. Yeah.
yeah, this was the
Oh,
Nordat.
damn, yeah.
Yeah, that was that was the first ship that I got assigned to. So basically, I did my PT qualification, and my mum and dad was like, "Look, Luke,
Were you a Steiner?
I was a Steiner."
I know the. I mean the term. I know the term.
There you
Steiner.
go. Yeah. There you go. You know it. Once a
Well
Steiner, always a
done.
Steiner. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Right. I know a lot of Steiners still to this day. Actually, my wife's still a lot of friends. My wife worked in the shop, so they actually weren't Steiner. They were Starboard. So the
Yes.
business for the shops was Starboard.
Yeah, yeah, because obviously they're all subcontracted, aren't they, on there and stuff? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
cruise director for Royal Caribbean, so I know a lot of Steiners. Yeah.
Oh, that suits you, mate. That's good. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I worked on Royal as well. I worked on Anthem of the Seas.
Seal
So
Lord Joff.
probably. I
Joff,
was only there
Joff
for four,
Fulham.
5 months. Yeah, but no, I did 2.5 years. So I sort of, I guess, for me, I'd never been on a cruise ship. And I did my PT qualification, went down to YMCA in Watford, where Steiners sort of do the training, did all my medical. Within 3 weeks, I was packing my bags, flying out to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then I can remember looking at the Nordam. I mean, obviously, that's not like big in comparison to some of the Royal Caribbean ships, but
Yeah.
I sort of like stood in the terminal at Vancouver. I was like, oh my days, this is my life for 9 months.
Yeah.
Um,
Scary.
but what the best thing was that, yeah, it was. What the best thing was, though, is nobody knew my background.
So it's new. It's a new Luke. It's a new Luke the Beast Beastall.
So that was the new
Failing,
thing,
no
yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, so nobody knew that I played football. Nobody knew that I'd had this professional background. It was sort of like my chance to reinvent myself, I guess, and find a new Luke. And it was honestly and I went over to New Zealand, and even when I went over to New Zealand, Australia, I had an opportunity to sign a contract for a semi-pro team in New Zealand, and I almost took it. They put an article up about me. I almost left and got off in Auckland. About 4 months into my contract, so I was struggling. I was struggling with the ship life, isolated in a cabin, sharing with
White look.
somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I felt sort of I wasn't doing very well with the sales, with the products, and I was struggling because I felt like, oh God, I'm a bit of a baby face. People didn't believe me and trust me and stuff like that. You know, all these inner voices sort of like knocking
Yeah.
yourself down again. But yeah, I sort of turned it around in the last couple of months. Went over to Alaska, and yeah, I ended up doing it for a couple of years. And it was in terms of like building up my business skills, sales, marketing, but without being all social media, sort of like getting out and talking to people and having conversations. It was yeah, it was the best thing ever. Really changed my life.
People don't underestimate the power of what you can do in six months on it. So our contracts on cruise ships were 6 months because I
Right,
was
that's still long.
it is, yeah. So I did crew staff, activities manager, cruise director. And me and my wife turned up on the same day because my wife worked in the shops, and we got to the Navigator of the Seas, which was just a little bit smaller than the Independence. So we're in Miami. We flew to Miami. Luckily, we flew together, and we just looked up at this ship, and we were like, "Oh, what have we done?" So the first 3 days of being on a ship, my wife was like, "I'm getting off. I'm getting off. This is horrible. Claustrophobic." She was struggling with the motion of the ocean. And she was like, I'm getting off, I'm getting off. I'm like, look, we just need to give it 6 months. We just need to give it 6 months. We'll never do it again. 13 years we stayed on cruise ships, 13 years after we got over it. But for anyone going into it,
Wow.
absolutely, it's a powerful, extremely mentally resilient place for you to go and learn your craft in whatever you do, especially with languages and things like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, look,
64
you
nationalities normally.
that's yeah. I mean that is commendable there, Cuddy. Wow, 13 years. Yeah, I guess for me, I it was because everyone's talking about I'll go to head office, do Miami. I got into like the top elite sort of sales
Yeah,
in the fitness. I started at the bottom, went way to the top. That gave me belief, obviously. I'd say
yeah,
belief, and started thinking, wow, you know. And I'll never forget a moment that I delivered a public speaking talk with a whiteboard, headset on, doing the whole health stuff,
yeah,
and there was 12 people in that room, and the 12 people were the people that I work with. They come to my last presentation on the cruise, and they all come together, and they were everyone I was working with. It was such a like eureka sort of moment. I never captured it, but it was something that will always stick with me as a memory and an experience that I actually had it in me to transform people's lives, even in a 7 day cruise. You know, it was like the impact that you can have on somebody in just such a short space of time. So then from there, I mean, Muscle Coach, the business, the
yeah.
brand, the community, that was designed and developed before I left home. I sort of like got it, parked it, went on a cruise ship. So I've like, right, I'll leave that behind because obviously when you're working with Steiner, it wasn't, I couldn't promote Muscle Coach. It was
No,
sort of like,
absolutely not.
you know,
No.
it was they won't let that happen. But yeah, no, listen, I enjoy. Listen, it was like my uni years. I enjoyed myself, hit the crew bar, spent all my money. I never had any money. I just absolutely lived it to the full. And Max, I did
Saw
like
the world.
beast mode again.
Beast mode, saw the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. Saw the world, went to some amazing places, and then look in 2018, um, that was sort of like right. I think I'm in a place now to come back and do my own business a bit more.
Yeah,
I got a bit tired of just selling, selling, selling all the time in terms of something that I thought I want to go into. I want to work with people over longer periods, not
yeah.
just see them and then see them. So I came back and, like I say, I sort of set up in a gym that was brand new. So I was like part of a new opening gym, and that was it. And then I started building up the business, and yeah, it went from strength to strength.
Yeah, perfect. So you are a father now,
Yes,
and that plays a big part on identity and it's scary for people. I mean, how old are you now, Luke? If you don't mind my asking, how old are you now?
it's fine. 31.
31. You do seem a lot younger than I. I would call you young team in Scotland.
Okay.
But I think young team is about 18 to 25. But I'm like, no, you still look very young, Luke, because I'm 47 and getting very old and grey. So you've come to 31. When did you meet your wife?
Well, she's my fiance, but soon to be
Yes.
wife. Yeah,
Right.
we're
Okay.
definitely going down that route. But I met her actually at the beginning of 2020. She was, well, I say me, I say we're sort of like transitioned from the friend zone to being a bit more of a friends with benefits, if you want to call it that,
Being in
whatever.
beast mode is what you did, Luke. You went
Yeah,
all
yeah,
full beast mode.
yeah. We went in, mate. We went in. There you go.
Right. Okay. So you're a father now, and this is extremely important. I'm not a father, so I don't have that stress.
Okay, okay.
And especially as an entrepreneur and owning your own business, there's a few things I want us to touch on. First of all, for you, we'll come to you. What is it you have to balance being a father and an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of stress on you for your business. So tell me what your business is first. Muscle coaching, expand on that for me.
Right. Okay. So if I go to the core, right, it's always been fitness.
Yeah,
So I've always sort of, you could say, looked after myself. May deem as selfish to people. It's selfless in the way because you can't give what you don't have.
yeah.
So for me, it was always right. If I'm in the best physical, mental stage, phase, performance that I can be the best person I possibly can be for anybody around me. So being a dad, and that was something that I wanted to be a role model and show my daughter that we do health, fitness, look after ourselves, etc. But that's the core business. Where it branches out now is into multiple sort of facets and dimensions. So one being, I've got obviously, and I can talk about this, but I launched a program in 2022 with actually my fiance Abby, and it was called Master Your Life, and it was sort of like an holistic lifestyle couple program where we'd be a 12-month program where we'd technically a year to create your life rather than a year to save your life. It was sort of like, right, we're going to create a new lease of life, right, sort of thing. Got the whole launch, invested loads of money in it. It failed. It absolutely failed. It was sort of looked so good, so shiny, drone footage, marketing materials, newsletter, you name it, lead magnets, just didn't work. So I didn't want to I parked the Master Your Life program, but then I thought, well, Master Your Life, I kept hearing the word mastery, and all these sort of high performers, business
Yeah,
owners,
mastery, emotional mastery.
yeah, mastery in this, self mastery. So I thought,
Bullshit.
yeah, I know. Well, I
It
thought,
is bullshit.
yeah, well, you're never going to master anything in a way. You're always going to evolve. But I thought, yeah, so for me, I thought, well, that sort of connects with what I want. I want to live my life to my true full potential. So I thought, like, well, okay, master your life, and then obviously the loss of identity that I've found in some of the businesses that I've ran because I've chased the monetary outcome and not actually slowed down and checked in with what makes me feel rich in my life, not with just the money. I thought, well, I need to find out who I am, who I want to become outside of my work. So, and I also had been to loads of networking. I mean, I did 2 years of solid going into loads of networking groups, your BNIs, your sort of chambers, your sort
I'm
of,
in the BNI. I love the BNI.
yeah. So, it's too cheesy for me that though. But yeah, I don't get me standing up and saying how many people I've referred. Not for me. But yeah, I'd done all that anyway. And I just found that like I wasn't having like it was sort of like very pressured, sort of people uptight. There was so much exchange going on when I was like, I wanted more depth. I wanted people just to feel more relaxed because I'd been in that place where sort of I'd been in these rooms and felt like, oh, who can I give my business card to, or who can I talk to that maybe want help with this? Whereas sometimes I think just eliminate all that and have a nice, relaxing sort of conversation because everything in today's world, especially in the entrepreneurship world, is like, can I schedule a 15-minute conversation? Can I just have this? Like, whereas when do you ever spend an hour like this on a podcast and just chat whatever, so that's what made me create the podcast space because I wanted people to sort of share their journey in a way that they've never shared it before, and then they start to connect the dots and it's sort of like, oh yeah, oh wow, yeah, I didn't realize that was sort of part of my journey, and I've learned a lot about myself kind of thing. So that was that. The podcasting's sort of me being on a personal development journey. I'm improving myself through other people, which is epic.
Yeah.
That's what we've spoken about earlier before.
Yeah,
it's a great networking tool. It's a great development tool. But also that helped me with battling loneliness because something I've always said to Abby is like, do you know what? I'm really fed up of being sold to. I'm fed up of having surface level conversations with people. All they want is my money. All take, no give.
Yeah.
Can I just have a conversation with somebody where we're just chatting,
Yeah.
and there's no agenda.
Yeah.
We're just getting to know each other. So, I mean, it's happening now, but that was something that I'm really, really passionate about with the business. And then, yeah, with the Master Your Life, I've sort of created a first step because I felt like Master Your Life sort of sounded great, but it was like, what is it? What is it? Who's it actually hitting? What market do you want to hit? So I thought, right, for me, what do I value more? And what do most people get torn between? Time and money, right? I want more time, but I want more money. But I want more money, I sacrifice more time, right? So it's sort of like battling those. for me, I asked myself, I had to get deep in and go, right, Luke, what do you value more, time or money? And I said to myself, I value time. I've done the burnout. I've been burnt out. I've done the 90-hour, 100-hour weeks. Cruise ships as well, you'll know. You can
Yeah.
work ridiculous hours, and it's sort of like you don't get much breaks in between. So I'd been in all of those sort of environments. So I was like, right, master your time. That's gonna be the first step.
Mm.
So I am utilizing time as the vehicle because let's be honest, if you ask somebody, they just want to feel free. They just want freedom. They just want to feel like whether that's financial, whether that's location, or whether that's time, they want freedom. They don't want to feel like they're chasing all the time. Now, I've been through the chasing mode and I've also been through the sort of leverage mode, like where you leverage your time and your money and all that kind of stuff. So I know sort of what is my balance, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So ultimately now it's sort of living with that, but also showing that you can have multiple businesses, being a dad, being a business and delegating, delegation is a really big thing, but also having a solid relationship. And by the way, it's not all smooth, that the flipping ship is stormy and, the roller coaster's got lots of twists and turns and highs and lows and fast and slow moments. But yeah, in my way, like I want to live that ethos of like I'm mastering my life in my own version,
Mm-hmm.
which is ultimately happiness, fulfillment, freedom, delivering impact, and having something that you could call a legacy, I guess, leaving something behind, showing people that they can live their life true to themselves in whatever way they want, rather than, I guess, for me, I don't want people to feel conditioned to society and that they have to follow a certain way. Like they can be them true selves and that can still create freedom in whatever way they want.
Mm. Yeah, it's fantastic, especially, and a lot of people don't understand that. And I think you touched on a point that I get that when it goes to, if anyone's new and want to go into networking, because networking is a great way to grow your business. And I tell everybody, go networking. I am a big driver of BNI.
Yeah, yeah,
I like the accountability of the BNI. I do. For
sure.
anyone that's listening, the BNI is a networking group that's quite big in the UK and America. Every section has their own different way. We're not too happy clappy, to be fair, because we're up in the Scotland franchise of BNI, so we're not overly American happy clappy.
Haha.
We do like to stand up and say, look, no, I got 3 referrals for this room. This is exactly what I've done for this week. 3 referrals for the room. Referrals are leads or introductions to
Yeah, yeah,
for anyone. When we're talking about marketing, you're wanting introductions to people who would say, I want to work with Luke Beastall. And that's a powerful part of networking. But you're absolutely right. When you first go into networking, everyone's selling. You're right, Luke. You're absolutely right. I've had it, and I've been that person sometimes, and it doesn't align with who I am,
yeah, yeah.
and I can see it doesn't align with you, and that's always those fantastic parts. Is if you are going networking and it's just sell, 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 you're in the wrong networking group. That's not what networking's about. It's about knowing, liking, trusting, and building those connections. Of you want to speak to Luke. Luke's the guy that's going to be able to help you with that. Speak to Luke because that will help you grow your business more than anything else. So I think that your community of muscle coaches, because I know we're going to come to another part, is but to build this part of the loneliness without the selling,
Yes.
what has that made to you? How does that make you feel
As in what? With the community?
to within the community of creating that space that you are not selling to each other and you're looking for solutions to help people move forward?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's sort. I mean, I say pressure is a privilege, but I think as well what it allows people to do and what it's allowed me to feel is I just get to slow down a little bit.
Mm.
I think when you start crunching numbers in your mind or you start looking at someone as a transaction or you're not, you're speeding up.
You're losing, yeah, you're losing
You're
the
you're losing presence. Yeah, because all you're looking at them is like, right, okay, so if they can refer one person to me, 2 people, that's 2 people. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
sort of like you know what I'm talking about. I can see it in people's eyes. I'm like,
yeah.
I can look at them directly and I say, you're thinking of this or what, and they'll go, oh, no, I'm not. No, no. I'm like, yeah, you're.
And it kind of sounds like you've switched your money making to contribution away from scarcity.
Yeah, so I'm all about abundance, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. I'm also about giving. So talking about this freedom side that I just touched on a second ago. So, like we were doing on a podcast, we're giving people value.
Yeah,
Maybe, hopefully, I'd like to think later down the line, somebody might take one thing from me, take one thing from the other guest,
yeah,
and take action and change their life, right? So,
yeah,
that's what I wanted to deliver the podcast. It's not about the money. And the
yeah.
thing is also I've set up a running club, an all-inclusive running club in my local area. You'll like the name, called Run Free.
They're free. I love it.
Yeah, Run Free, and it's free,
Yeah,
but it's a collective, but it's an all-inclusive sort of environment where you come along, it's 5K, it's all abilities, dogs can come, kids can come. So there's no excuses, because I know the biggest excuse as a parent is I can't though because I can't get childcare. Obviously, if they're a baby, understand. But if they're like 10, 11, and maybe they want to come out and just be a bit more active, look, it's about creating a space that's healthy through moving the body and moving the mind. Because what I found, and I bet you could agree with this, is that when you're moving, you're more creative. When you're stagnant, you're a little bit more sort of clogged up. Like you're a bit more, you get tight, stressed. I think when you're moving, you sort of can relax. You can talk a bit more openly. I found from a male point of view that I have better conversations when I'm shoulder to shoulder with a guy out moving or walking than I am when I'm sitting directly opposite to a guy in a coffee shop.
yeah. Action creates traction.
Yeah.
It does. And when we're stuck in that freeze and fear, there's no action, there's no traction. So that's why I think that's I'm sure that's something that we can both tagline on that one. I've never, yeah, action creates traction. And that's what we're doing is we're moving people from those freeze and frozen states, aren't we? Of not having enough time and not having the power of presence. I mean, people don't understand. And I'm very mindful. And meditation's a big part of my life. And it's funny. I move away from meditation, and it's when I realize that there's a lot of chatter, and I'm like, oh, I need to go back to meditation. You need to slow down, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
really powerful. Oh, yes, bang on there, Luke. Bang on. So. Powerful stuff. Love what we're talking about. Now, what is some of the biggest reasons people want to move away from employment to self-employment? That's kind of where you're helping move people
Yeah,
make
yeah.
the transition. I know what my reason was, and to be fair, I'll be very open. I just got fed up of being told what to do.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it
Yeah.
literally. I'll be honest. I think I know better. And I don't know if that's ego or you're not here. How can you make a judgment from the office? And I was just like, it's just, I don't want to be told what to do. They're not looking at what's going on. I'm being told you've got to do this, this. And I'm like, no, it'll mess what's going on. So yeah, I think that was one of the biggest reasons why I left. And I'm honest about that. I actually love Royal Caribbean, and I love the people, and I love the guests.
Yeah, the guest
Job.
was
It
what
was
make it, yeah.
yeah, they really did. And Royal Caribbean, and I will honestly say this about them forever, they do a really good job at it. They do a fantastic job at it. Royal Caribbean are great. So, what is it are you finding when your new mentees are coming towards Luke? What's the reason they're wanting to move from employment to self-employment?
Look, the main reason is they feel a slave.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
So they just sort of like they're not getting up with a fire in the step. They feel old. They feel tired. They feel sort of achy, stressed, tight, everything that you can imagine. They're struggling to get out of bed in the morning because they know that they're going into an environment that they resent. And the only reason that they're doing it is because it's allowing to cover bills each month. That is it. There's nothing beyond that.
Yeah, yeah. On your journey, this is a big question because this is the kind of a question that I ask myself, being a solo entrepreneur and things like that. Is it worth it?
1,000,000%.
Why?
You learn so much about yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, look, I'll be honest, right? On this episode, there's been times where I've decided maybe I can't do this anymore.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
started looking at employed roles.
Yeah,
Spoken to a few people. Go, hey, listen, Luke, I'll give you this kind of wage each year if you want to come a part of this coaching or do that. And close, sort of
yeah,
had conversation with Abby and gone, yeah, well, if I bring this home and you bring this home and blah 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 blah, we'll be able to. But then I go, nah, that's not my life. Do you know what? It's like one of my coaches said to me Cut it. Nobody queues up for a flat roller coaster ride.
No, they don't.
And I was thinking, wow, that's epic because the reality is, yes, we want to be safe. It's a human trait. It's the tribe. It's right. But the reality is no. But you're bored with it. It's boring. And if you ask somebody, the question I ask the guys that sort of maybe reach out and have a conversation with them, I go, can I just ask you a question? Just be real. I don't want you to hesitate. I just want you to say yes or no. Straight away, yes or no. Are you happy? They freeze, right? And they might go, yeah, I am. Okay, so what makes you happy? And then when we break it down, it's not the career that makes them happy. It's the kids, it's the wife, it's the partner, it's the hobby that they do. But I go, how much time do you spend doing that? How much time do you spend at your career? Maybe they do 50, 60 hours a week, maybe a bit of overtime to sort of supplement. Like I say, it's that sort of like slavery part where they're in slavery for 5 days and they've got 2 days of freedom.
Yeah.
Or they've got 30 days of freedom a year. And then, or 30 days of being able to do what they want, holidays, and then 330 days or whatever are sort of days where they're grinding it out. So that's where sort of for me, it's trying to get them away from or open their mind up that, yeah, we're not designed to, well, I've known myself, I'm not designed to feel trapped or isolated or again, being told what to do or live to, I want to be able to give back to with my life. I want to be able to open up doors for myself to learn, to grow, to be challenged so that then I can pass that down to others. And then that's why I mean, you're talking about solopreneur. I just work with solo business owners. I don't work with teams because obviously I'm a solo business owner.
Have I said the wrong term?
No, solo. You said solo entrepreneur. Oh, I said dadpreneur, didn't I? Really, I was sort of just.
You did say you're a dadpreneur, so a solo person in an entrepreneurial business.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So obviously, I've got multiple businesses.
Yeah.
And this is something I say quite a lot now, though. Is I honestly, you just can't rely on one source of income.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
You can't. You just can't do it. You can't. The way the world is. If you're just going to go into something like, say, for me, like when I first started out as personal training, it was just personal training, right? Oh, what's your hourly rate? If somebody goes to me, Luke, what's your hourly rate now? I go, I actually don't know. It's sort of that. But yeah, I think for anybody sort of, I mean, I think we spoke about it early on. Maybe you might have said it before recording or you said it on recording. You've just got to ask yourself, are you a victim of your life or are you the owner of your life?
It is. So actually touching on that was before the podcast and stuff like that.
Ah, right.
When we in the personal development world, there's the victim mindset and the growth mindset. All right?
Yeah.
Now, when you were a teenager in the football, were you a victim or were you not aligned? Because it's a perspective thing. It's a perspective thing. So as a 17-year-old at Rotherham, when you were not feeling supported, did you turn into the victim in that moment? Or did you have, when you were asking and being the one that spoke up, what's the difference between victim and genuinely allowing yourself to go, this is not for me and move away? Because that must have been hard. Because you must have felt like a victim at one point with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was the victim to start off with because again, I'd not been in this place before, so I was like,
So
"Why
you
me?"
were the victim.
Oh yeah, I played the victim. Yeah. There was,
Really?
yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely was the victim. I mean, gosh, there were times when I'd be saying to myself like, "Why me? Why is life doing this?" All that stuff.
Yes.
There was all that. There was
Yeah.
all those sort of things. I even sort of questioned the boys as well. Like, I even said straight because I had the sort of audacity to go, "Why are you targeting me?
Yeah.
Honestly, what have I genuinely done to deserve this? That sort of thing."
So when right, perfect. Love that. Again, we might even go down another rabbit hole on this one.
Yeah.
Luke, so you now, 31-year-old, father to a daughter, you're now looking back and there's some 17-year-olds they're going on your journey. They're at Doncaster Rovers or they're at Rotherham. I keep saying Doncaster, don't I?
I know you do, yeah.
Right now. Sheffield Wednesday, because I was a Sheffield Wednesday fan growing up. So they're in the Young Owls. What do you say to that 17-year-old now, Luke? What do you see? What's three things you can tell that 17-year-old if you could do this, you'll become the professional footballer, or what? What's the three things you tell that 17-year-old?
Well, the first thing is because I didn't know and I didn't have much of it, is you're gonna face loads of rejection. You know, you're gonna get told one thing and then something's gonna happen instantly, and you're gonna have to deal with it, whatever that is. That's number one. I'd never faced rejection, so as a 17-year-old, just know that if your manager says one thing, that he could be sort of manipulated by others or sort of don't put that guy in or whatever. Like I had a just to give an example, manager comes to me, pulls me outside the change room. Luke, I'm starting you on Saturday. So this was Carlisle away, so near Scotland.
Mhm.
Massive 3 hour 15 travel. Mum and dad's like, "Oh, Luke, you're playing. We'll come up and watch you." Gets to that ground. They bring in a player on trial. Luke, sorry, putting you on bench. So, oh mate, and that was and I didn't play the whole game either. So it was sort of my mum and dad was there, and on that car journey home, you can imagine we were just sort of like slagging him off all the way, sort of like letting out loads of emotion. But it was sort of yeah. So it's facing that anything it can change so quick.
Yeah.
I think the second thing as well is yeah, it's this is quite a tough one because obviously I wouldn't have known it then, but I would just definitely say have something, just have a little bit of something outside of just football. You know, just something. I don't know what it is, even if it's just a different hobbies, something away from football. Just have something away that can just turn you off from football. So don't be like, I know people might play FIFA and stuff like that, but I would definitely be saying just try and do something a little bit different. Just a little switch off. I think. And then the third thing is I would definitely say back to my 17-year-old self is because obviously you're in a competitive environment is fine because I lived away from home, you see, and I didn't really have any people around me. So
Yeah.
that's where the loneliness came in. I would have said, like, Luke, you're living away from home. Go out and find some people in a local area and just talk to people. Just sort of like, connect with the community, sort of grow yourself up that way in whatever fashion that is. I think for me, I think because I was so dedicated to football, I did hold myself back from doing anything outside of football because I was like, I want to live, eat, breathe it, and be fully
Mm,
focused on it. But I think that's where I missed, and I'm going to say the word fun. Like I sort of took a lot of fun out of my young childhood years just
yeah.
because I was so sort of so in it. Really, I was all in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful, Luke. Thank you very much for sharing that. Genuinely is. Um, and what are you going to do for your daughter? She's growing up. Is she going to go to Rotherham United or is she going to go to Arsenal young team?
Well, it's funny, yeah. Well, do you know what? She's obviously still young. We don't know where and what she's got. We know
Yeah.
she's active. She's always out playing. She's definitely not going to be one of those tablet babies. I can tell you that for sure.
Right. Okay.
She's yeah. We don't even do that when at dinner table ever. We always like we're very good behind the scenes. We have meals together. We sort of all no phones at table. We've got boundaries. We're sort of really making that effort. And let me tell you, it's hard work,
Yeah.
but it's paying off because let me tell you this: her behaviour is ridiculously good. She is a very very good child. I mean, yeah, she has her off days. Obviously, they all do. But I'm talking like we've been around others and they can't believe how well behaved she is. But we know why because it's what we do with her. It's her
Yeah.
routines. It's a habit. It's how present we are with her and stuff like that. Like I make a day each week where I just spend one-on-one time with her.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that being a business owner. But yeah, so she'll grow up to have fun. I always want her to express and be herself.
Yeah.
I think for me, I just got conditioned very much by the football and I mean my dad let me play amateur football all the way up to like 12, 13, and then and I'm grateful for that because gosh I think if I'd have been in an academy set up from 5 years old, I really don't know what my mental health or where I would have been. you
Mm,
know I think there's a lot of that today because you sort of have that FOMO feeling
figuring
of
it out. Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to miss out on like, oh yeah, but if they've got the opportunity to go in now, why wouldn't I take it? But I'm very mindful of that when I see Remy grow up. If she decides to go to gymnastics or dance or, football, let's say, I'm going to be very mindful of, I want to just to enjoy whatever it is that she wants to do,
Yeah.
rather than sort of like, right, let's get you in, let's get you extra coaches, let's get you extra classes and push it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's absolutely lovely. Um, and I know that we're going to be wrapping up very, very shortly. Is there anything else, Luke, you want to share for Muscle Coach or for anyone that's going through something right? That's the question I wanted to ask you. Is now you understand the power of failure. What does your rejections mean to you now? All those rejections, what do they mean to you now, Luke?
Well, for me, rejection means there's opportunity.
Right?
That's it. So for me, it's like, because I've obviously, and this is what I said earlier on, it's that when you become a business owner, I get like maybe you've got a good skill set or certain one thing that you're quite confident in, and then other areas you're probably like, I can't do that, I can't do this. You've got to build multiple ways that people can come into your world,
Yeah.
whether it's free, whether it's paid. But guess what? Like you might get rejected in one by somebody. Okay, cool, fine. But you're not sort of being chaotic about it and your stress is raising because you're like, okay, well, that's having a bit of a low month, but then that's having a high month and it sort of all balances and juggles itself out. So for me, like I'm just being playful with it and having fun in my business, but I'm also having fun outside of it as well.
So you're staying away from the highs and you're staying away from the lows, and that will steady you out.
Yeah, like let's be honest, it's sort of, business has seasons, business has peaks, it has troughs. I mean, I know what it's like, and I feel it from, some of the guys that I work with is that they're sort of like, well, if I'm going to leave, or I expect it to work out, or maybe they expect that linear growth, or, they're
Yeah.
used to like 5 years you progress the ladder. No, 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 no. This is non-linear. This is whoa, up, down. Your back's going to be against the wall, but it's like if you really want to be this person that you're telling me that you want to be, do you genuinely feel that that person's just going to plain sail and it's going to be smooth? 100% no.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to, like for me, if I'd not had adversity and not had all these moments in my career so far, would I have been where I am today? Probably not.
Yeah.
Would I be on this podcast with you sharing this journey and story?
Yeah.
I'd be vanilla, mate. I'd have nothing to talk about.
So do you know what? There's the one team I'm going to say. I'm going to probably start using this as something. You don't buy a ticket for the merry-go-round. You don't queue an hour and a half for the merry-go-round. You queue an hour and a half to go on the Nemesis.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That's a massive takeaway for me and for anyone. And I'm a big believer in metaphors and analogies because they can just hold that place for that vision and that for that goal is. And no one buys a ticket for the merry-go-round. So if you bought a ticket for the merry-go-round, getting on that roller coaster ride, the Nemesis, the big one at Blackpool,
Yeah.
is always the ride you wanted to queue on and go on. I love that analogy. Thank you very much for sharing that one, Luke. Is there anything else you want to share, Luke?
Anything else? I think for me, anyone listening to this, if you're sort of in a place where you're not happy, you're not satisfied, you feel like the world's against you, you sort of feel trapped, you think whatever direction or whatever your mind's saying where you should be going or where you ultimately want to go, but there's then that voice pulling you back in and just letting you stay comfortable. I just want to let you know that that's a sign that you've got to change and start taking small action steps. If that's if you're just like completely like, oh yeah, you probably won't be listening to this episode anyway. So all I'm saying is that's an opportunity. Take it as an opportunity that you've got something there to work with to be a different person and change the direction of your life.
Yeah. Action makes traction. I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Luke, the Beast. Luke, the Beast, Lord Beastall.
I like it. I like it. No one's ever sort of highlighted that so much like you, Cuddy. So I appreciate, mate, you hitting that. It's sort of got a bit of like power behind it.
That's what I do is I bring the power to the podcast however I can and the connections that we make. And I'm a big believer in that battling loneliness in business is 100%. Luke, you've nailed it. And one of a lot of the things that I do are always through the C's. So contribution, community, and connection. is three powerful words in my life of how I can contribute more, make a better connection, and create that community to move forward is a powerful thing for everyone. Luke, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for being on the Mind Management Mentors. And as everybody that sees the podcast, I'm a big believer if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And as always, big love from Cuddy, and I will see you on the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. Luke, thank you very much. Say goodbye.
Thanks, Cuddy. Take care. And anyone, guys, who wants to connect, I'm always happy to.